passenger set sail that day for a 3-hour tour.
All right, well, we continue our trip down Circle Lane. We have Chapter 8.3, Areas of Circles. Yeah, I know that was a horrible joke. I will quit with the humor because it's not even there. It's early in the morning. I'm trying to do this, so I apologize. All right, we're doing areas of circles, and I try to make sure you guys understand that when we learn formulas in geometry, it's not just about the formula. I want you to understand where these formulas come from. Today's formula is area of a circle. And before we go through what area of a circle's formula is, I want to show you something. You'll notice I have an image of a circle that's encased in a square, and the diameter of the circle is the width of the square. So let's just say that we tell you that the square is 10 inches in length, and I ask you to find the area. Well, you would know that you would do 10 times 10, and you get 100. All right? I would hope that all of us would understand that. Well, let me do this. Let's put a center point here. We're going to put a radius, and if the whole distance across is 10, that means the diameter is 10. That means the radius then is 5 inches. And if I was to put another radius up here, basically I've made one little square, right? And you could see that there would be 4 of those squares that would form the larger square, correct? And so if I do 5 times 5, I get 25. If I multiply 25 by the 4, because there's 4 squares, right? We get 100. So again, that proves, what the area is. However, you can imagine with a circle, there's all the space that's not being filled in of the square. And possibly those 4 little areas along the corners, those 4 corners, would add up to 1 square approximately. So is it fair to say that the circle would represent 3 of those squares? And if that's the case, could we take the 25 times 3 to get the area of the circle? Well, that's essentially what we're doing with the area formula for a circle. The area formula for a circle is area equals pi r squared. So in this case, we have area equals approximately 3.14, a little over 3, times our radius, which is 5, squared, which would be basically around roughly 75. And again, I just want to make sure you understand that is where that formula comes from. There's a little bit more in depth about that, but that's the most simple, basic way of explaining how the area of a circle works in that formula. So that's our formula. It's pi r squared. Okay, and if nothing else, just remember. In the past, I've always had students that knew pi times d and they knew pi r squared, but they would confuse the two. Just think, what makes more sense? Area always has square units, and pi r squared has a square in it. So just always remember the pi r squared with the square sign goes with area because area is always squared. All right? All right, let's move on to our first example here. It says find the area of a circle, and as you can see, we have a radius of 7, which is a multiple of 7. So we're going to use 22 sevenths. So we're going to do area equals pi r squared, and we have area equals 22 sevenths times the radius, which is 7, times itself. So I'm going to do it one more time. So the first 7 cancels out with that 7, giving us 1s. And you can use your calculator. 7 times 22 gets us 154. And it's centimeters squared. That's all that we're doing when we're finding the area of a square. We'll usually use 3.14. But in the cases of multiples of 7, we'll use the 22/7. Again, you need to do 3 lines of work. If I do not see the 3 lines of work for your notes, I'm going to assume you didn't watch the video, and I'm going to not give you credit. I'm going to mark it as incomplete, just so we are all perfectly clear. So let's move on. Our next example says find the area of a circle, but now we have, as you can tell, we have the diameter. Well, as we learned in the first section of this chapter, we just take the diameter and divide it by 2. So if the diameter is 26, that means the radius must be 13 inches, right? So we're just going to do pi r squared. So area equals pi r squared. And we plug in what we know. So area equals 3.14 times 13 squared. And then we multiply this out, and we get, with the calculator, 530.66. It's inches squared. I want you to notice in both of these examples, they've given an estimate. So 13 times 13 equals 169. They changed that to 170, and they made an estimate of 3 times 170 is 510. I just want to make sure you understand how to do an estimate. I'm personally not going to make you do an estimate, but that is how you would do an estimate if you wanted to estimate approximately what would it be. You just kind of round off the numbers. You know, we instead of using 3.14, we did 3. Instead of using 169, we did 170 to make the math a little bit easier. You can see the same thing was done over here. Instead of doing 22/7, we did 3. And 7 times 7 equals 49. So instead of doing 49, we did 50. And so we did 3 times 50 is 150. Just to see, is our answer reasonable? Okay. So I'm going to have you try number 1. And you're using 3.14 for pi. And then you're going to do 2. You're going to use 22/7 for pi. So take a moment to do these 2 problems. We'll check in here when you're done.
Here's the story of a lovely lady who was bringing up 3 very lovely girls. All of them had hair of gold, like their mother, the youngest one in curls. It's a story.
Okay, let's see how you guys did. So for the first area, again, we're going to use pi r squared. So area equals pi r squared. We're told that the radius is 6 feet, so it's easy enough to plug in. We have 3.14 times 6 squared. And then we just have to solve it. And again, it's going to be an approximate. I'm not sure if I did that with the first 2 examples, if I wrote that in, but remember, you're going to use the approximate sign. It's approximately 113.04, and it's feet squared since we're dealing with area. All right, hope that's what you were able to come up with. Let's look at problem number 2. Again, we're going to use area equals pi r squared. However, this time we're going to use 22/7. And our area, well, not our area, but our diameter is 28, which means the radius must be 14. So we're going to do times 14 over 1 times 14 over 1. The 7 goes to a 1, the 14 goes to a 2. Then we're just going to multiply 2 times 22 times 14, and that gives us approximately 616, and it's going to be meters squared. There we go. You've hopefully you came up with the same answer for 2. Again, ask me if you're having trouble with this. If not, we're going to move on. All right, monster truck. This doesn't look as bad as it may seem, believe me. It says you want to find the distance The monster truck travels when the tire makes a 360-degree rotation. So imagine it goes all the way one rotation. So if it does a 360, it goes like that. 360 rotation, right? And hey, look, it made a circle. And the distance around a circle, think about that. So it says, which best describes this distance? Is it the radius of the tire? So does this make you think of radius? I would say no. Is it the diameter of the circle? Again, no. Is it the circumference of the circle? Circumference goes all the way around the circle. It's the perimeter of a circle. I would say yes. And just to round it out to make sure we didn't make a mistake, area would be, is it referring to what's inside the circle? And no, it's talking about if we did a rotation of 360 degrees. So the correct answer is C. All right? So for number 3, I want you guys to try this one, and we'll be right back with you in just a moment.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? All those nights when you've got no light.
Okay, so you want to find the height of one of the tires. What is the measurement you would best describe? What measurement would best describe the height? Well, again, if we have a circle that would represent the tire, and it's a horrible tire, I know, whatever. And so we're talking about the height. The height is telling you how tall it is from here to here, right? And that is the same thing as the diameter. So for this one, the diameter would best describe the height of the tire. All right. And again, you are to use complete sentence on this, so I want to make sure I'm seeing a complete sentence. So in your notes, make sure you've written a complete sentence. Very good. Let's go ahead and move on. Number 3. So as you can see, we're looking at a half circle here, a semicircle. If you've ever been to a concert, whether it be to a band concert or to a concert, you know, a lot of times they'll have an orchestra pit, or maybe you've been to a play or something. It says find the area of the semicircle orchestra pit. The area of the orchestra pit is 1/2 the area of the circle with a diameter of 30 feet. So all we're doing here for the half circle is what you would imagine. You're going to take area equals pi r squared, and we're just going to multiply it by 1/2 or by 0.5. Either way is fine. We just plug in our information. So we're going to use 3.14 times the area, times the radius, which is 15. We're going to square it times 1/2, or times 0.5. We multiply it, we're going to get approximately 353.25. So the orchestra pit is about 353.25 square feet. So since this is a word problem, make sure you write your answer in a complete sentence. Let's go ahead and move on. I want you guys to go ahead and try 4, 5, and 6. You don't need to write complete sentences. You can just put down your answer with the about sign, or just write down about with your answer. Okay? So let's go ahead and you try the next 3 problems. I think we're about done. Okay, let's see how you guys do it with these. For number 4, we have area equals pi r squared times 1/2. So we have area equals, since we have the 8, we can just go ahead and use the 3.14. Since our diameter is 8, half of that is the radius, so it's 4. So 4 squared times 1/2. We're going to then put in our calculator, these numbers, and we're going to get 25.12 meters squared. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and try our next one. We have area equals pi r squared times 1/2. And again here, we're going to use 3.14 times our radius. If it's 5 is all the way across, then halfway across will be 2.5 squared times 1/2. And a reminder, you can put 2.5 squared, or you can just put 2.5 times 2.5, right? And so we multiply this across, and we get a longer decimal. We get 9.8125. And it's yards squared. All right, down to our final problem. We have, again, area equals pi r squared times 1/2. We know that the radius is 11, so we're going to use the radius, which is 11. So we have area equals 3.14 times 11 squared times 1/2. And we get area is approximately 189.97 centimeters squared. And that is it. That's all there is to it. And hopefully you found this to be pretty easy. Like I said, this chapter is a pretty quick and easy chapter. So best of luck with your next assignment, and we'll talk to you soon.
It's the Muppet Show! It's time to play the music. It's time to live a life. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight. It's time to put on makeup. It's time to dress up right. It's time to raise the curtain on the Muppet Show tonight. Why do we always come here? I guess we'll never know. It's like a kind of torture to have to watch the show.